Fools, welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your guide through the twists and turns. And I've not got Skin with me this week. Charlie is here on camera in the studio. Say hello Charlie. There you
hello,
go.
Charlie.
David talks over him as well. Go Diz. That's great presenting. But I'm also joined by two other guests. They have featured on the podcast before, but they've never featured live to talk about Formula One with me. They've only had their own mini segs. So please welcome Ryan Smith from the infamous segment Hot Lap Recap.
Oi, oi.
Also joining us is Henry from the Haas Chap.
Hello.
From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. I swear to God, boys, it's way more. We're usually way better at it than this.
It is 3:30 in the morning.
It's 3:30 in the morning. So the reason we've not got Skin with us today is because he's in the Maldives with his wife, Eloise. That's weird to say. So that's why we've got the boys on today. We're not going to be presenting you with any kind of subject that is going to teach you anything about Formula One. We're just going to be debating and talking about the Miami Grand Prix. So if you are here to learn, you might still learn some stuff, but you're not going to learn about a specific subject. This is literally just Miami Grand Prix. And to get things started, Ryan is going to give us a live Hot Lap recap.
Are you ready, chaps? This is the first live one, and I'm going to try and get it done in one run. So let's see how we get on. Let's buckle up for a Hot Lap recap that is going to aim to be as thrilling as Lando Norris's first Formula One victory lap at the Miami Grand Prix. Okay, and we're off! In a twist that felt more like a season finale cliffhanger, McLaren's Lando Norris left us all wondering if we'd accidentally switched universes. Norris seizing the day with the help of a timely safety car, making his pit stop look like a magic trick. Now Verstappen, who is usually the one that's inflicting the pain, found himself on the receiving end for once. Finally, the world champion, after a bollard bashing incident, couldn't muster the pace to catch Norris, who was setting the track alight with genuine speed. About bleeping time was Norris's radio message, echoing the thoughts of every McLaren fan who's been practicing their victory dance since their last one back in 2021. Now, the Brits' win wasn't just a fluke, it was a masterclass in strategy and speed, proving that sometimes the stars do align and the safety car gods can smile upon you. Now, meanwhile, Verstappen's race was limited to second, missing chicanes, displacing bollards, and then watching Norris pull away even on older tyres. Then there was this confusion when the safety car actually picked up Verstappen instead of Norris, after being so used to having Max as the first driver. It was like someone trying to herd cats, wasn't it? But eventually it was down to a straight fight, and one that Norris was not about to lose. Now, behind this leading duo, Charles Leclerc was doing his best to keep the pressure on. His teammate, Carlos Sainz, meanwhile, was involved in a tussle with Piastri that ended in drama, complete with a penalty for Sainz that felt a little bit like being sent to bed without any dessert, didn't it? And Hamilton, in a performance that was more of a comeback kid than a leisurely Sunday drive, which is what I mentioned last time, he battled his way to 6th. And let's not forget Fernando Alonso, who decided to start 15th just to give everyone else a bit of a head start. And then his 9th place finish helped to prove once again that experience sometimes trumps youthful experience and exuberance, unless you're called Lando Norris, of course. Stop the clock. Ooh, there we go. I think it was a 1 minute 27. I've actually forgot to mention the time on this one, but it was a 1 minute 27. There you have it. Norris's stunning victory, Verstappen's bollard woes, safety car shenanigans, and a midfield battle that had more twists and turns than a Swiss pretzel factory. I mention it, lads, because I'm fresh off the plane from Switzerland, so it's on the brain. The Miami Grand Prix certainly wasn't a disappointment. Has the season finally got going? I think it has. Just don't ask Williams, because they finished 18th and last. Another one to forget, eh, Dave? There you go. That's the Hot Lap recap. Next time, we're heading off to Imola, so that'll be a good one. There you are, boys. Done it.
Bang, go Ryan. That was amazing.
Hey, a round of applause.
I forgot to play this for everyone that obviously loves the jingles.
Race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go, 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 go. The race is over, over, over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go, 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 go.
And apparently Ryan said he's got a new jingle next week for Skin, for the hot lap recap. So is that going to be a theme that just every few weeks we just change the jingle just to annoy Skin?
And give him a choice, see what he likes.
Well, you know, Skin loves a jingle, Skin loves a pun, so I think we need to throw one in every opportunity that we can.
Absolutely. I absolutely love it. Talking of Charles Leclerc, so we're going to get straight into it. Sprint race weekend. I just want to put this out there because Charlie sent me this morning. Charles Leclerc drove the entire Miami Grand Prix without any water. And the cockpit was reaching temperatures of up to 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And he had zero water for all of that. So respect to Charles. Apparently it was very hot at the Miami Grand Prix this weekend. So huge effort.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to... you're going to feel that, right? Without having water for the duration of the race.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't even manage, and yet those guys are trained athletes.
Yeah.
Still find it pretty tough.
Yeah. We've seen
if you had that situation like you had in Qatar last year, that's just going to be a situation where, you know, things are going to get even more dangerous than they already were at that race. So, you know, fingers and toes and testes crossed that's a situation that they don't get themselves into again.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, back to the sprint race though. I had quite a lot of notes. It was a very energetic sprint race. There was a lot happening with Haas. We'll get onto them in a little bit, but obviously having Henry here today is probably the best thing we could do because Kevin Magnussen made a fair amount of headlines. But I want to start things off with that turn one incident. Lewis Hamilton, it was Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton just coming steaming down the inside and decided to use two Aston Martins as brakes to make it around the corner, is fair to say.
Yeah, and then hitting Norris as an end sort of result, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was almost like Toto's mad that all of these cars are faster than him, so he just said, hey, Lewis, just go take out all of our customers. Yeah. Let's make them unhappy.
I think something has to be put on Lance Stroll as well, because it would be rude not to at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, even if he was nowhere near, he's got to have played a part in it somewhere, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it is a good point because when Lewis went down the inside, Lance, I think he was kind of like stuck in a really difficult place though, because he had Fernando on the outside and then he probably didn't know, but then Lando was on the outside of him. So he had to kind of tighten the corner entry, which then meant that Lewis that's probably what caused Lewis to go into a slide. The difficult thing for me is that Lewis could see that there was all these cars into turn one and he still decided to just come off of the brakes and send it. And I don't know. For me, I'm just, you all know I fucking hate Lewis Hamilton. So I just think it was a shit move. And I don't think he had any intention of actually making the corner without hitting anyone.
Maybe, but it was a bit thoughtless. But then again, there's a couple of things you've got to take into consideration. You've got cold tyres because they'd only done a formation lap, and you're also off the racing line at that point. And Miami is a particularly dusty track, so you know your traction is going to be even less significant than it would have been in any other situation. But yeah, he probably could have done something to mitigate it.
Yeah. I suppose that
he was the only one to end up to put himself in that situation, and someone that is someone who is as experienced as he is on the race, you would have thought might have thought about the circumstance a bit more, unless he was just hot-headed, gung-ho, disappointed that he's so far back compared to where he really wants to be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I suppose what Henry was saying with the dusty track and things like that, Checo probably helped Lewis Hamilton in the Grand Prix because lap one, Checo did pretty much the same thing. He didn't hit any cars, which was lucky for Checo, but yeah, very similar kind of crash. But then, yeah, that's my main gripe with it, is that he's the second most experienced driver on the grid in terms of like races under his belt, and yet he still failed to stop the car. He's also the on paper is the best of all time in terms of championships and wins and everything else. And yet he just didn't stop the car properly. I'm just like, I'm just baffled by it.
It's one of those, I think. He's probably not ever going to be thinking about that shit ever again, especially not in that car.
He's not, but I will. I won't let anyone forget it.
He got away with it though in the end, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to kind of anchor towards. Fernando Alonso, after the sprint, has come out and said that he wants to speak to the FIA over claims of nationality bias. He's claiming that people that are not English are being penalised far more severe and far more often than those British drivers. Thoughts on that, boys?
I saw that and I thought, really? You know, I mean, he's doing so well in so many different areas. Is that clutching at straws? I mean, do we genuinely think that it's a British sort of like slant on these penalties, or is it just a coincidence? I mean, there's not that many British drivers on the circuit, is there? I mean, there's lots of other people that are all ramming and causing chaos on the track. I mean, you get it with Hamilton, and that you can understand his perspective on it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. What do you think, guys? To me, I think that's just an excuse that's been plucked out of his arse.
I mean, I think there's a couple of things, because Fernando and Lewis have had a previous rivalry in years gone by when they were at McLaren together, and there has been, not particularly from the FIA, but from the media side, and particularly from the broadcast media, who obviously Sky and previously ITV, Channel 4, BBC, all kind of jumping on the kind of British bandwagon, and there's this like British bias within Formula One of really supporting and really getting behind teams or drivers who are from the UK, and kind of not so much with people from other nationalities. Like if you take Seb, I remember in that particular period, not many people over here really had that much of an appreciation for Seb, but we can now look back on it and go, oh my God, wasn't he the most amazing driver in the world? But I don't know whether or not this is just a little bit of sour grapes from Alonso, because things haven't gone quite so well. He was out qualified by Stroll, I think, in both sessions, at least in the sprint, and he finished behind Stroll. So it's probably a bit of sour grapes from him.
Yeah.
The infrastructure within Formula One is very British, isn't it? Yeah. The amount of teams that have their bases based in the UK and that have got a lot of their execs and their designers and and all of the people within their management structure. There are so many people from the UK in there. I mean, if you start saying that there's bias at the driver level, then surely you must be saying that it's endemic and it goes much further and much deeper than that, because of how well connected Formula One is to the United Kingdom.
Yeah. 100%. I think Fernando's main gripe this year is that there's a few more stewards. Like Johnny Herbert has joined the stewarding team for this year, and there's a few more like British ex-drivers or people that have been engineers or whatever that are now kind of deciding these results, and so I think that's where Fernando is probably focusing on. I do agree that I think he's focusing on the wrong things. He should probably focus on the driving instead of who's getting penalised and who's not getting penalised. I think all of this also comes back off the Australia thing. Like he got the penalty for the mistake with George when it was, like it was probably it was a very harsh penalty to Fernando. And I again, British driver was involved as the other person. It's one of them.
Only a few weeks ago, Dave. Wasn't it only a few weeks ago though that it was all in the media about people behind the scenes helping him stopping getting penalties?
Well, exactly. The FIA president had kind of stopped a drive-through penalty or something. He should have got in. Was it in Qatar last year or in Saudi last year or something like that? And so I do think Fernando is just clutching at straws a little bit here, especially as you both mentioned that. Difficult weekend for him and Aston Martin. So, he was also
fed up of all these Spaniards getting all of these easy buys. Honestly, they're just being pushed through, aren't they? They're getting priority over everything. These Spaniards. Cool. Let's do an investigation.
By all the Spaniards, you mean Fernando Alonso. He was also quoted saying after the Lewis incident at this turn one in the sprint, I guess they won't decide anything because he's not Spanish, but I think he ruined the race for a few people. You see, that one I do agree with. I think Lewis should have 100% got a penalty for that first lap collision. Martin actually agrees with me on this one as well. I got this sound grab from post sprint race on the commentary.
I'll leave you normally to make your mind up on driving standards here, Martin, but I think he was over the limit in many ways on many occasions there.
He was, but he was racing hard. I'm not going to stick the boot in too hard on that. He was having a go, wasn't he? I mean, yeah, it was a little bit outrageous, but he wasn't ploughing into the side of people.
No.
He was going for it. And, other drivers ploughed into the side of other drivers in turn one and knocked them out of the Grand Prix, and it didn't even get investigated.
Yeah, there didn't seem to be much consistency.
He was referring to the Kevin Magnussen bits in the sprint race at the very beginning, and then obviously moved on to saying that Lewis should have got a penalty for ploughing into the side of people into turn one. What do you reckon to that?
Yeah, he definitely should have got a penalty, some form of reprimand. I don't know whether or not he's got any penalty points at least for that, not just like a time penalty, but I think it was pretty egregious that nothing came of that, considering that he was responsible for putting somebody out of a race. In any other situation, that's what would happen. You'd be getting a penalty. As you said, we're going to come on to it. I mean, K-Mag is prime example for that this weekend, but yeah, I think it's kind of ridiculous that he didn't get anything, but I don't think it's because there is a British bias per se. No. I think they probably went, it's lap one, turn one, kind of anything goes.
Yeah. Collisions happen.
Yeah.
But that's what annoys me more, is because sometimes we need to take that exact sentence of like, it's lap one, things happen, like the Carlos Sainz Oscar Piastri incident. If that was on lap one, it's like, just lap one, like you hot-headed. But what Lewis did wasn't just a lap one incident. He if that's gonna be the ruling, then people just need to stop, using other cars as brakes on every fucking lap one, because you're gonna get away with it. That's the precedent that they're kind of setting here. But yeah, I think that's the reason they didn't give him a penalty, but I don't think it's enough of a reason to not give a penalty.
It was lucky, wasn't it, that the other two didn't get knocked out.
Yeah.
The two Aston Martins.
Yeah, Norris.
I mean, I wouldn't have been so disappointed if Lance Stroll was out of the race, to be fair.
No, absolutely, I wouldn't. It's shocking that he didn't just retire because someone came near me. So, but yeah,
Daddy.
It's one of them. Exactly. Right. So speaking of Mercedes, I want to move on to Lewis Hamilton. Spoke a bit about this quite a bit in the last few races. Lewis has a tendency to always complain about things that aren't him when it comes to racing. I don't think we've had a single race this year where he hasn't blamed a third party for him being shit. And the sprint race was not any kind of exception for that. In fact, early on in the sprint race, he came over the radio and said grip was very good. And that was shocking because everybody else on the grid was complaining about how bad the grip was. So Lewis coming on, it was like, whoa, okay, Mercedes might do something in this sprint race. Maybe 5-10 laps later, Lewis Hamilton come on the radio, I have no grip, man, and is complaining that his tyres are gone. Oh, Lewis, why can't you just take some accountability for once? Obviously, he's going to see this. He's a massive fan of the Formula Fools podcast, even though we're not fans of him. And by we're not fans of him, I mean I'm not a fan of him. You guys can have your own opinions.
But remember, there's been conversations about are people using the radio in a slightly interesting way and using code. Do you think that perhaps this could be a little bit of code from Lewis going back to Mercedes to not give the game away? Tinfoil hat is really on right now.
Yeah, because when you're on lap 16 of a 19-lap race and you're in P10, you really want to be throwing codes around, don't you? Yeah. Do you know what? Nail on the head.
Don't give all your tactics away.
Always thinking.
Always thinking. That's why we brought you on. But
I think it's more that he just thinks that he's going to get cheap cheap sort of like mental health workshops over the radio for him. That, you know, no one else will listen to him now because they're so sick and tired of him moaning. So he might as well speak to the only one that's been paid to listen to him. Has got no choice.
It's just, you know what, when you say that though, it's just the same as when Lewis was in his like real dominant years, and he would come on the radio and say, oh, my tires are cooked. Like the tires are off, we need to pit. And then he would continue to do like 5 PBs. And you're just like, oh yeah, right. Them tires are really gone, aren't they?
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. It's a double bluff.
But the difference is back then he was winning races. Now he's not winning.
Well, maybe he can't get over those times, and he
can't help it. He's so used to still doing it.
2017.
It's ingrained.
Come on, lads. We're in 10th place. Let's really mess with their heads.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they'll all crash. If I say this, they'll all just spin off, and then I'll win the race, and everyone will love me again.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, yeah, if he wants to believe that, he can believe that. Martin Brundle also agreed with me. Agreed probably with everyone about how bad Mercedes were looking this weekend during the sprint race.
They've got horrible speed in that Mercedes, haven't they? In race trim, they were convinced. I was convinced they would start moving forward in this.
Yeah, so I think this was more in reference to George over Lewis. George was sat, I think, in like P12 or P13 or something, like really low down, far from the points, and yeah, just did not look like they were going to trouble anyone apart from maybe the Haas, who it turns out are a fucking midfield team, not a back of the grid team.
Can we also just say just how amazingly well connected you are that Martin Brundle keeps agreeing with you and that you're agreeing with Martin Brundle?
Well, no, actually, do you want to know what's funny? I wrote my note and then 2 laps later, Martin said it on commentary, and I was like, I'm literally on face. You agreeing with me, Charlie?
Nope.
Oh, God damn you. I'm on FaceTime with I need to start I'm going to start recording everything that I do because no one believes me. I was on FaceTime with my dad, and I'm like, them Mercedes are humming. And I thought Lewis was doing good even after that, like one thing. I was like, Lewis is doing all right, but George is in Humsville. And I said it, wrote the note, and then Martin said it, and I was like, right, perfect. Lap 15 or whatever lap that was. Write it down, get the audio grab. Lewis also went off the track and got a 20-second time penalty in the sprint race. Weird.
It's just another one of your 20-second penalties.
Well, no.
And it was after the checkered flag as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like, I think he should have got a 10-second penalty, not a 20-second penalty. I think it's bullshit penalty, but I'm more just concerned that going off the track warrants a 20-second penalty, yet ramming into 3 cars warrants 0. That's like... I'm just
priorities.
I'm just struggling to see any kind of consistency in the penalties being dished out.
Do you think they've got within the stewards that there's different people that look for different things? I mean, I'm not particularly clued up on, in my mind, there's just like a panel of people in there that sort of make the decisions all together. But can you imagine if there's one person in particular that looks at racing incidents and there's another one that looks at, issues that are crossing the line? So you've got one really anal guy that's like on it with the lines and like maximum punishment required. Yeah. And then there's someone else that's like, no, just let them race. It's fine.
Yeah. The other guy's just like smoking a spliff, just like proper chill, like fucking tie-dye t-shirt on.
Oh no, it's the FIA. It's French, they're all having some wine.
Oh yeah. Which also makes no sense with the English bias, because why do French people like English people? Like,
there you go.
Bullshit. I don't believe there is an English bias. Right, let's move on to Haas, because we are definitely ticking down on the... We've been recording for a fucking long time. We've way surpassed what I thought we were going to. And Haas we've got a lot to talk about with them. Henry.
Hello.
Well, actually, firstly, let's start off Hulk. Great weekend.
Super weekend. Phenomenal weekend. Yet again, proving how worthy he is to be in the sport, and actually how much of a good move Audi have made in signing him for next year. Unbelievable weekend for him.
Absolutely. I reckon, great move by Audi. I think when Haas first re-signed him at the beginning of last year, I was a bit like, he maybe have a season or 2 with Haas, and then we'll see the back of him. But honestly, last year he did great, and then the performances so far this year, he is just outperforming that car every single race, and this was no exception. I think he finished P10 in the sprint. It's mainly his qualifying that's doing amazing. So in the sprint quali, he finished P10, and then the actual quali, he finished P9. Can't remember his race results. Have you got them there, Charlie?
His race results was 7th in the sprint.
Yeah.
And
11th in the main GP.
11th in the race, yeah. So that's 2 points in the sprint for 7th.
Yeah, 2 points in the sprint. So so far there's only been 2 weekends in the calendar where Haas haven't scored points,
Yeah,
which is very strong.
It's huge, especially when
How many races in a week?
7,
Shut up.
8,
6, 7, is it?
yeah, but
Yeah, 6.
but like
Six races in, so two of the 6 you haven't. So
Yeah, 2/3.
is
2/3 of points.
Is that unusual, or is that a decent percentage?
Exceptionally unusual for Haas. I mean, come on, we scored 12 points in total last year, and we scored no points in 2021.
yeah, but also Ao Komatsu came out pre-season and said, expect nothing of us. We're going to sit at the back of the grid and just like work on development and like work in house. Like for them to even score any points, I think is huge for Haas this season. And when you now look that there are only 2 teams on the grid that haven't scored a point, Williams and Kick Sauber, it's crazy that Haas are consistently scoring points.
Alpine's only scored 1 as well.
I mean, Alpine's only scored 1, yeah, but like it's 1 more than Williams have got.
They have definitely positioned themselves, haven't they, now as being one of those mid-pack people.
Yeah.
They've got the reliability. They've got actually drivers that are creating a good, consistent results. So that they're definitely ahead of the rest of the pack, aren't they, with that in that area?
Put it this way, it wasn't a shock seeing Hülkenberg in the top 10 in both qualifying sessions. Q3, it wasn't a shock seeing him get through to that Q3 session because it's
they looked really racy as well, didn't they? They really looked up for it.
Yeah. The sprint, Hulk, obviously massively aided by K-Mag, but yeah, very racy.
We have to be racy at this moment because really there's only 1 point available in every race week, in like every kind of usual race weekend. There's really only 1 point usually up for grabs. So you've got to kind of do everything that you possibly can. That probably kind of leads us quite nicely on to Kevin Magnussen.
It does lead us nicely on to Kevin Magnussen. Kevin Magnussen has had a few crashes this weekend. Now, I don't agree with the first penalty he got for I think it was going off the track getting an advantage. I think he got in a bit of a slide and he was kind of forced off the track by the slide that was caused by battling Hamilton. So I think like in the heat of the moment, not deserved. The rest of them probably deserved. He was quite rough against Lewis.
Well, 2 of them were for pit lane infringements because there was one where he served a penalty incorrectly by not changing his tyres, and there was another one where he changed his front wing under the safety car. So they're kind of irrelevant to the race in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's that race steward again that's a stickler for the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
He's got the magnifying glass out on the rule book. I did not realize they were pit lane infringements. Wow.
Yeah, 2 of them were, outside of like the racing conditions. None of the points were because of those penalties within the pit lane. But then again, I know you might disagree when K-Mag was having that conversation with the interview and he was saying that, I had to do that for the team. I had to support Nico and that's what I want. It's not where I want to be. That's what I had to do to ensure that the team are getting points. And Hamilton's going, yeah, fair enough. Fight. This is what we're kind of wanting. We're not wanting like just passes in the DRS zone because then you get really boring races. Make some big moves.
Make some moves. Yeah. I don't. Okay. I'm going to change it. I don't think he deserves any of the fucking penalties then. I don't even think he deserves the penalty points from the sprint race. Like that's total nonsense. I think his battle with Lewis I think it was just hard racing. It was good racing. And like, obviously Lewis is going to jump on the radio and complain, like any driver is going to jump on the radio and complain about someone racing you hard. But like, I think the moment they would have got out of the car, Lewis would have, probably gone over to him and, had a bit of a fucking hell. That was good racing. Like we saw with Carlos and Danny Rick after the sprint, they had some good battles and they got out of the car and patted each other on the back. And it was fuck, that was good racing. And I think even Martin agrees with us.
What the drivers are saying is, look, you can't keep the stewards stopping us from hard race. We want to race hard, but that's a little bit over the line.
So yeah, even like Martin's on our side. Martin may as well just join the Formula Fools team.
He might as well.
I think he's on retainer, isn't he?
Shall I call him?
Yeah, you may as well give him a shout.
Might as well. Oh, he's hung
I
up.
won't worry because he's clearly whispering into Dave's ear every 10 seconds anyway, isn't he?
What's he whispering into Dave's ear? Is it sweet nothings in the middle of the night?
It must be. But what's crazy is I generally don't agree with what Martin will say on commentary. But for some reason this weekend, me and Martin were just like best friends. Like everything he was saying, I was like, yes, Martin.
Are you feeling okay?
I don't know. Last thoughts I've got on the Kevin Magnussen stuff is that he now has 10 out of 12 penalty points. So he's got 10 penalty points to his name, most of which have come from this year. I think all 10 have come from races this year. If he gets 2 more penalty points this season, he will have a race ban, or is it a 1 race ban, or is it like a period of...
It's a 1 race ban.
1 race ban. So he needs to be really careful from now.
Somebody, I know, Dre Harrison, who used to be on the WTF1 podcast, he made a very good point that the only point, the only penalty point that matters now is the 12th one. The others are irrelevant. It's almost like you could have no points, and as soon as you get 1 penalty point, then you're out.
But this is also where I'm very confused by the penalty points, because you don't usually see 1 penalty point being handed out. I don't know if that's the case, but all of K-Mag's, he got 3 in Saudi, 2 in China, 3 at Miami Sprint, and 2 in the Miami Grand Prix. So like usually they're handing out 3 or 2 penalty points. So pretty much just 1 more incident and he's sitting out.
What would happen in that situation? Would it be that he just misses it and then there's 19 cars on the track, or do they get to put like a reserve in?
So it's on the driver. It's not on the car. So the car becomes irrelevant in that situation. So Kevin sits out. They get a reserve in. So it would either be Ollie Behrman or Pietro Fittipaldi.
So actually it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because it probably would then, they would also then get to see one of the drivers that they want to put in the car for next season. So actually from like the team's point of view, it's probably not the worst thing.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Pietro's raced for Haas before when he took over for Roman Grosjean in 2020. And Ollie Behrman, even though he's already got 6 FP sessions this year. So it's not like he's not going to be having any practice this year anyway. So if that does happen.
No, but just to see them at race trim.
Yeah.
But seeing them at race trim would be interesting. We're catching up with the Haas Chap. I know he's been on the podcast all of this episode and is continuing to annoy me as I try and intro his segment. But we like to check in with our friend down at Haas because, you know, Haas were supposed to be the shit team and now are dominating and beating Williams in every shape that they pull on the track. That's not a correct sentence. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Henry, hello. It's good to see you.
Hi there. It's good to see you too. Well, I mean, what can I say? It's been a real mixed bag of emotions. It's definitely the understatement of the century. Walking away from an exceptionally chaotic race weekend with some good points isn't unusual for us, but it's definitely come away with some questions. And first of all, is this just a bad weekend for K-Mag, and he just needed a bit more time to get set up with the car to get closer to Nico, or is he in genuine danger of a race ban? I mean, looking at this from the perspective of, let's say, the boss, right, Gene Haas, who has been very vocal in the past about performance and results, especially with his time with previous team principal Gunter Steiner. I personally don't reckon he's not going to get too upset if K-Mag gets a race ban. Like, if it means that the team are still getting points. I mean, after all, he's been very vocal about not being last this year. And if playing the team game means that they have to sub in Ollie or Pietro for a race, and I don't really see him being that fussed at all. He's going to be getting that further up in the championship, that much more money. You know, at least he's taken a chance, is K-Mag, not just allowing his position to fall behind in the usual sort of Haas way that we've seen in previous years. But saying that, it is going to be interesting if K-Mag has to continue playing the team game for Nico to score instead of being it the other way around.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a few more frustrated K-Mag weekends moving forward, but I really hope this has been a one-off weekend for him this season. But safe to say, I would say that he is probably one of only about 3 drivers this weekend who actually provided anything entertaining. So I'm still holding hope. There's going to be a Haas 1-2 and Imola, and we're going to win the championship by 500 points.
Yeah, that does seem quite likely as well. That
Keep hoping.
Yeah.
That's definitely on the cards.
Hoping.
I do agree with you that it is frustrating for K-Mag to be helping out Hulkenberg, and you would probably, as a Haas fan that now knows that Hulkenberg is leaving, you would probably want it to be the other way around, and for your driver that is probably going to be staying with the team next year to be scoring the points over the driver that's exiting the team. But yeah, I think from Jean's point of view, they're not wrecking the car like they did when they had Schumacher and the Russian guy.
Don't say his name. You're not allowed to say his name.
Okay, fine. I forgot his name. Whoever that guy was.
Good.
When they had them two in the car and they were just like destroying it every week and costing millions and millions of dollars of damage throughout the season, like they're not doing that. And yet they're still grabbing headlines and they're still getting points. So like he's not doing anything wrong for the team. It's just other people that have got a problem with it.
Yeah,
By
exactly.
other people, I mean the biased FIA stewards.
Gene House's intentions for this team effectively are to go racing, be in the midfield pack, and to promote his own company. You know, that's really what all of this is about at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I respect it. I like it. And I'm glad that Haas fans agree and are enjoying.
You mean the Haas
seeing it
fan?
happen. The Haas fan. Sorry, yeah, there's only one, even though you got sent something from a Haas fan in Japan, I think.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was pretty sick. I don't have it here.
Yeah, so there's definitely 2 of you in the world.
At least, all right, okay, at least one.
At least one. We can confirm one. We've locked him down. There might be 2. We'll try and lock him down at some point.
One might just be a glory hunter.
Yeah. Not like us Williams fans.
Certainly not. No, we're used to the victories rolling in.
I actually saw something on Instagram last night, and it was, tell me that you're an F1 fan without telling me. No. Tell me how long you've been an F1 fan without telling me how long you've been an F1 fan. And I commented on it, I'm a Williams fan. And yeah, some
Williams
people
used to be good.
I didn't even need to put that out. I was just like, I'm a Williams fan. Like no one's joining the Williams fandom this year. Okay, let's move on to the Miami Grand Prix. Great race, like probably one of the best races of the season, which is shocking because Miami is one of them tracks that just usually delivers crap. Not in terms of the racing, but just in terms of the entire weekend being cringeworthy and Americanized.
Over-Americanized, yeah.
The preview Sky Sports did, they had someone, I think it might have been will.i.am, saying, welcome to the best city on the planet. And I was like, oh my days. It definitely is not the best city on the planet.
Resisting the urge to not turn it off.
Yeah.
At that very point.
Well, no, because I was just like fast forwarding. I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm not watching the pre-show. Fuck this. Get out of it. Straight to the race. I mean, I couldn't. Well, the race I actually woke up straight away for it, but Jesus Christ. Lap 1. Checo, Carlos, and who else was involved? Oscar Piastri had a bit of a crazy start to the race. Carlos.
First corner.
Yeah. Well, Charles had a shit start, which meant that Carlos and Checo were flying. Like they were genuine guns, like heading for the back of Max Verstappen. Obviously, we weren't going to challenge Max Verstappen in any way, but genuine guns. And then all of a sudden, Checo just fucking forgets to brake, does a little Lewis Hamilton. Well, I don't know if he forgot to brake or if he just locked up. I can't remember. But then he just shoots straight off and kind of almost takes Carlos out of the race.
Yeah, and Piastri, all of a sudden the door just opened for Piastri, didn't it? And he found himself in a really decent position when actually, he had no right to be there. But as a result of that dive bomb down the middle, I mean, to be fair, it was pretty amazing that no one actually ended up getting collected in any of that. The reaction time of the two cars was amazing when he sort of sliced between the two. And
seeing Piastri go, seeing Piastri fly past both of them and go into P2 was just, I was screaming. We had just posted a video about Oscar Piastri on Instagram, so I was like, please win the race. Obviously, later down the track, Carlos and Oscar had a pretty insane battle. They were on it for a fair few laps before Carlos had a bit of a moment, lost his rear end trying to overtake and snapped Oscar's front wing, which meant Oscar had to pit, and I don't even think he ended up, I can't remember where he finished, like P14, P13, something like that. It was real low down wherever he was.
13. He did have the fastest lap of the race, though.
Yeah, because he pitted on softs at the end, so but he wouldn't have got a point for it.
He was looking good for it, though, wasn't he? He was up to second for a good few opening laps of the race before that happened.
Well, he was winning the race. He was leading the race after Max pitted, and like I can't help but think that if Carlos and Oscar had waited one lap to pit, Lando wouldn't have won. It would have been an Oscar or Carlos win.
Yeah,
I think one of them two would have won the race.
I don't know about that one though, because Oscar had only half of the upgrades compared to Lando, didn't he? So I don't know whether or not he would have been able to hold Lando off enough.
But Lando was like 5 or 6 seconds behind them. Like Lando was far away. So like if they had waited a lap,
but that was
pit like
but that was then again quite early on in the race. So I don't know whether or not he would have been able to use that time.
Yeah,
to manage his tires and to like use good charging for his ERS.
Yeah, it's one of them things where because I think personally Carlos would have probably won over Oscar, but it would have been interesting to see. I don't think Lando would have won the race because I think it would have, had they waited a lap, it would have come out Oscar in the lead, Carlos in second, Lando in third. So Lando would have had to overtake Carlos and overtake Oscar. I think Carlos would have got Oscar eventually and won the race, and the McLarens would have battled. I know that Lando had more upgrades, but up until that point in the race, like in qualifying, he was only a 10th ahead of, or 10th and a half ahead of Oscar. So like the upgrades they said were going to be 2.5 tenths. They weren't quite what they thought it was, or Oscar was just on the ball. So like I think it would have been closer.
Race pace was better rather than the quality
for Lando,
especially the second stint afterwards.
Yeah,
the second stint after that safety car and him going into pit, he was pulling away from Max.
Yeah,
even though Max had got newer tires. So I can imagine if he's able to pull away from Max, then he'd have been able to have got closer to Sainz.
Yeah, well, I think the difficult thing there is that Max. It's the Red Bull have now come out and said, he had floor damage because when he went over the bollard, the thing like I think it scraped along the floor, so he had like very minor damage. But Red Bull said that.
You would say that though if you were Red Bull, wouldn't you? And you just lost to McLaren, you would say that you had some kind of damage that stopped the dominance.
But to be fair to Red Bull, they were very hats off to Lando Norris, and they only announced this yesterday. So like they didn't come out straight away and like try and defend. Like Max never mentioned having any kind of damage, and neither did Christian really. Like at post race, they were very like, we just weren't on the ball today. We just didn't have the car underneath us. And then it kind of came out. I think the reason they officially said it was because there was a fair few reports going around saying like there was a photo taken where you can see the bollard like touching the floor, like not the bollard, but like the bit of the bollard that was like attached to the concrete. It was like touching the floor of the Red Bull. And so I saw a report come out saying like he probably had damage. And so Red Bull kind of came out and were like, we had damage, but that doesn't take anything away from Lando. But
maybe it just took 2 days to find the minuscule damage with their magnifying
But they said that it probably was only a tenth or so that it cost them. Like it wouldn't have been a crazy amount of time, which is why they didn't lose out to anyone else. And like, so that is still very impressive that if they had only lost a tenth per lap to Lando, for Lando to still finish, what was it, 8.5 seconds at the end?
Yeah, it was, about 8 seconds, I think.
7.6.
7.6.
So question then, Dave, with that, has the season started? Is it open? Is with McLaren's upgrades, have we now finally got more than a one-horse race kicking on into this season?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we're going to see it go on with a actual title challenge against Max, maybe against Red Bull if they can catch up. I think the problem is going to be that Ferrari and McLaren are going to trip up each other because there's going to be certain races like we've already seen this season where McLaren are on it, Ferrari are on it. Well, I don't think we're going to see between them and Haas, obviously.
Yeah. Yes.
But Fred Vasseur this morning has done an interview and has said that they're putting more pressure on the drivers this year because they feel like they are closer to Red Bull and that they can challenge Red Bull a lot more this season. So, it is. I think there is definitely more of a season, but I think it's I think Red Bull and Max will still win it.
I think there's also an important point in that Adrian Newey leaving Red Bull, and he's going to be stepping aside from his Formula One responsibilities and moving towards the supercar and the other projects that Red Bull have got going on. They're not going to have his knowledge and his understanding of the RB20 going forward for the rest of the year's upgrades.
Yeah.
So who knows, that could be a factor in not allowing Red Bull to keep getting further and further ahead. That might be the golden thing.
Yeah.
Has he actually stepped out mid-season?
No, they've kind of said that he's shifting his focus over to different projects. I think for now he's still working on the upgrades for this year's car, but there'll become a time around the mid-season mark, like around Spa, where
which is when they would traditionally start looking at the next season's car.
Exactly, and at that point, it would take a long time for upgrades to come out, so it's pointless him working on upgrades because it'll just they won't affect the season kind of thing. I think on that it's going to be very interesting to see if Red Bull keep him around at tracks. Like I think come Spa, he'll be gone. I think he won't even be at the racetrack. I think he'll just be back in Milton Keynes, just doing his regular job on, like say, on the hypercars project and things like that. I don't think they'll take him to tracks.
Such a fall from grace, traveling the world every weekend for the last 30 years, and now Milton Keynes for you.
Yeah, literally.
The glamour, the glitz. Oh, it's so fabulous being in Formula One.
Of roundabouts.
Yeah,
mate. If I was working at the Red Bull factory every day, I would not be complaining. I'd be a very happy
you prefer to be travelling to Interlagos.
Oh yeah, I'd rather be travelling the world, but there's still worse places to be in the UK.
That is true. We've seen him, haven't we, Dave? We've raced him.
Yeah, we've raced at them. Shout out to Team Sport go-karting. But yeah, the Adrian Newey, I think it's going to be interesting to see how all of that unfolds with Red Bull. Christian Horner has come out, I think today or yesterday, and said that they're not worried. There's been a few people saying Will Buxton was a very, very outspoken person about the Adrian Newey Red Bull news. I don't know if you saw his interview with Formula One TV, but he basically said every team that Adrian Newey has left has then fallen off the cliff and has never returned to success. I think he may be forgetting that McLaren won a championship after Adrian Newey left. He's a Piorg. And also challenged for 2 more championships before and after that championship that they won. Will Buxton
and the Honda team as well that turned into Brawn GP. They did it all off their own backs with a whole set of new regs without any new input.
Exactly, and I think Will Buxton was just way out of line with what he said, and I think he's just trying to grab some headlines since I think he got hot-headed with all of his Netflix Drive to Survive fandom, and I think he's just trying to throw out headlines. Yeah, honestly, I can't wait for him to listen to this. He's a Piog. He needs sacking. He needs to be one of the first people to go. But a lot of people
before Danica Patrick.
Oh, yeah. I think I hate Will Buxton the most at the moment. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Danica sucks, but not as much as he sucks. Yeah. Sorry, boys. But yeah, a lot of people like that have spoken about Adrian Newey, Red Bull are going to suck after he's gone and they're not going to do well and everything. But Christian Horner has come out and said, look, we've taken 220 members of staff away from the Mercedes engine factory, I guess. The people that have designed the Mercedes engine over the last 10 years. He's like, we're not worried about losing Adrian. We've got, we're replacing him with more than enough staff that are going to count in different departments and in the same department. So yeah, I hope that Adrian goes somewhere and makes a difference in another team, but I don't think it's going to change Red Bull being a competitive team in the slightest.
I don't know if it's going to change them being a competitive team, but I think it's certainly going to be an indicator that things are starting to shift within it.
Yeah. But then
throughout the whole controversial thing, it's been the big man at the top who's had the most flack. I kind of think that with Newey going, are people going to kind of lose faith in, or even if it isn't correlated, are people going to start to lose faith in Christian Horner because of what has happened? do they kind of put 2 and 2 together, even if they say it's not because of that?
Apparently, Max Mosley is he's kind of the next one that has been rumored to be exiting the team. I heard, yeah. So apparently that could be the next big loss for Red Bull. So it's definitely going to have a knock-on effect. But to be honest, I don't even think the controversy with Christian Horner is the biggest reason for Newey leaving. I think the biggest reason is that Lewis is going to Ferrari and he probably wants to work with Lewis and Ferrari before he retires. So I reckon he may just go to Ferrari and live out his days and retire when Lewis retires.
Not to Williams.
Well, there have been a couple of reports out there that said that Williams are in talks with Adrian Newey. We know that James Vowles and Adrian Newey are fairly good friends. They have chatted quite a lot when James Vowles was over at Mercedes, and there was rumors back in the day of the Mercedes domination where Adrian Newey was apparently going to sign with them, and apparently James Vowles was one of the people talking to him to bring him over there. So it wouldn't surprise me.
What, a tour of the factory and like 50 pence in his paycheck,
mate. Adrian Newey has made so many millions that he doesn't need money anymore. All he needs to do,
goodness of his heart,
he just needs to return his former team back to victory. He worked for Williams in the 90s. Like, he's responsible for a lot of good Williams cars. It wouldn't surprise me if he sat.
Yeah, but then again, it's boring because he's going back to a team he's already been to before. I think he needs to go to somewhere fresh, somewhere interesting. I think if he, dare I say, he could go to. Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. That he should go. If he does go to Ferrari, he will be inadvertently helping Haas out, because Haas take their engine and the suspension bits.
And he has nothing to do. Oh, yeah, actually, to be fair, he probably would design the suspension. So, yeah, that is true.
So then Haas would have an Adrian Newey designed car, and we will win every championship for the next 100 years.
You need to put a little asterisk on the end of Adrian Newey designed car parts. Is the asterisk.
Yeah. And can I just say, whilst we're on Ferrari, just how disgusting Ferrari in blue is.
Oh my Christ.
Yeah.
The biggest overhyped thing, the most disappointed I've ever fucking been in seeing a car. I was online when they launched that merch, and I was like, I'm fucking buying this shirt. It looks so good. I was like, I'm not a Ferrari fan.
Yeah.
I'm going to hate wearing it next year when Lewis is there, but oh my God, that shirt is beautiful. And then they launched the car, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Were
like
we surprised? Because they did this, they've done this before with the yellow. Were we
they did.
Were we not expecting it?
Yeah.
It was horrible, but even the overalls that they were wearing as well, it just looked wrong.
Yeah, it was bad. It was not good. It was not good. While we're talking about people moving around, there's also been rumors this week of Max Verstappen being offered a very big contract from Mercedes. Rumors have been around the 250 million euro mark. Max did an interview and said he's happy with what he's being paid at the moment. He doesn't need to be paid anymore. He said, I'd rather not be driving in P5 or P6 and getting grumpy. I don't know if that's an indicator that he's looking at maybe an Audi move for 26, stick with Red Bull for next year, move to Audi in 26, or see how Mercedes are going next year. But he's kind of fully ruled out moving to Mercedes for next year.
Yeah, I'd keep that quote bookmarked for another 12 months and then just see, when he's sat wearing a brand new outfit next year, just sort of like having his car washed with dollar notes and things.
Do you think do you think he's going to go to Mercedes?
I think he'll follow the money.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he'll follow the money.
I think he'll follow Helmut Marko.
Audi is too much of a gamble in my mind. I know they're going to put a lot of money into it and they've got a lot to prove, but I think at the minute they're completely unproven and it's too much of a gamble to go from established to unestablished.
I definitely don't think he'll go down to Sauber for next year. I think if he's going to go to Audi, he'll go to Audi in 26 or 27. But I just can't see him following the money and going like, why would anybody on the grid go, I'm literally a 4-time consecutive world champion after this season. And I'm going to move to a car that has finished below me for the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, but you could say the same about when Hamilton shifted from McLaren.
Yeah, but McLaren would... No, but you can't say the same because McLaren were declining. McLaren had sucked shit since 2010.
But Mercedes was still...
Yeah, but Mercedes and McLaren were on the same vein. They were both battling for the same piece of tarmac. They weren't... One of them wasn't a world champion. Like, yeah. Lewis had 3 real shit years at McLaren, and they weren't looking like they were getting the investment or the sponsorship needed to challenge Mercedes. And Mercedes were obviously...
in the same breath, Mercedes didn't at that point look like it was a step up. It looked like it was a side step.
It was a side step for sure, yeah. But like, I'd rather take a side step than a step down. And at the moment...
So do you think then with Verstappen then...
There's a piece of me that feels like Verstappen will retire earlier than we think.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Because he's said it before that he's not really wanting to chase the statistics to be like the greatest driver of all time in Formula One, that he's not that interested. He wants to go and do some other things. Whether or not that's true, I think is to be seen. But if he's going to be concentrating a lot on his like sim racing, or he wants to go and get the Triple Crown, perhaps, which would be an even bigger accolade than just being a he could be a 4-time world champion or 5-time world champion and get the Triple Crown and you that's probably on paper better than being a 7-time world champion in F1, because no one has won that many world.
He'll go off and pursue his real passion, which is extreme gourmet cooking.
Does he like cooking?
I have no idea. I made that up. Is that right? Is he actually? We're just throwing F1 rumors. You heard it here first.
He loves a bit of botany, and he's superb at tiddlywinks.
They're the rumors that we want to be spreading.
Extreme tiddlywinks.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think if he was to move to anyone for next season, it would. At the moment, it's looking like McLaren. McLaren or Ferrari, but both of them are pretty set in stone with who their drivers are going to be. So yeah, I think Max will be staying firmly at that Red Bull team. And I also think, I do agree with what you said. He'll probably follow wherever Helmut Marko goes, unless Marko goes to Audi to start a junior program for the Audi team. I can't see Helmut going anywhere else, because I don't think anyone else would have him, because he has insulted far too many fucking people in the paddock, especially in Mercedes and Ferrari. So I just don't think he would be an asset to any of the other teams apart from Audi. So yeah, we'll see how that one unfolds. You could say that Helmut
Marko is an ass at...
Yeah, I mean, we could also just call him an arsehole and just be done with it.
Oh yeah, you could call him an arsehole, yeah.
Right, I'm going to move us on to a little game to close the podcast off. I'm just calling it Stop the Lights, reaction times, whatever you want to call it. I saw a video on Instagram. If you're a fan of Formula One in any shape or form, you will have 100% seen this kind of video floating around. They've got some start-finish lights set up, and they go, like, all the red lights go on and then they go out. You have to screenshot. You've got to screenshot the video after they go out to show how fast your reaction time is, basically. I've just sent it to you on Instagram so that we can play. The 4 of us, including Charlie, we're all going to have a bash and just see how fast our reaction times are.
Oh, hello.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, I'm just looking at it. So, all right, okay, so it's just when the lights go out then.
Okay, are you ready for my time?
Yep.
It is 6:39.
0.639.
0.639.
Okay. Right. Ryan, you go next.
Right, here we go. Oh, terrible. Oh, no. Hey, I tell you what. I don't know if you can see it on the thing. You can't see it because I've got a green screen on. I have got 0.359.
Wow. Oh. Shit. Okay. Charlie, you go next. Oh, Charlie, you liked it instead of stopping it.
639.
Oh, 639. Okay. You were probably quicker than that, but you liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good game.
Here I go. Oh, Ryan, what was yours?
0.359.
Oh my gosh, we got the same.
Did we?
0.359.
That's why, mate, we're partners on the racetrack.
Exactly. What did you get again,
I've had
Henry?
a second go. Are you ready? 0.239.
Oh, God damn it. I'm not counting it. Your first one stands.
239.
False start. False start.
It's for me. I wanted to validate myself.
Second go. What did you two get again?
0.359.
Same
Yeah.
as you two.
There's obviously because it's a frames per second thing, you can't get it. Like there'll be specific times. Yeah. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Formula Fools podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. It's definitely been a bit longer than what I wanted it to be. You can catch up with us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all Formula_Fools. Twitter, we are... Sorry, I've done that the wrong way round. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Formula_Fools. Facebook, we are just Formula Fools. So get around us there. If you want to drop us a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then please do. Apple Podcasts, you can actually leave a typed review and we're going to read one out next week. So get on there, leave us a couple of reviews, maybe say how beautiful Ryan and Henry are, and we'll read one of them out next week. Thank you for joining us. Oh my God, Dave. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. Love you.